May 17, 1945, a detention facility near Lüneburg, northern Germany. Greta Müller stands in the processing line, her Wehrmacht Helferin uniform soaked through. Rain hammers the roof. She watches the British sergeant at the intake desk writing names in a ledger with methodical precision. When her turn comes, he looks up. Name? She gives it, expects a slap. Rough hands, the brutality Nazi propaganda promised would come. Instead, he slides a tin cup across the table. Steam rises from it. Tea? You'll want to sit. Processing takes time. The cup is warm in her hands. She doesn't understand anything anymore. By 1945, over 500,000 German women had served as Wehrmacht auxiliaries, telephone operators, clerks, meteorologists, anti-aircraft spotters. They weren't soldiers, but they wore uniforms. They served the war machine. Nazi propaganda had been explicit. If captured, German women would face unspeakable brutality, rape, torture. The British were weak, decadent cowards. When Germany collapsed, thousands of these women found themselves in British custody. They expected punishment, vengeance. What they received was far more confusing. Greta finished her tea, real tea, not the ersatz swill they'd been drinking for years, and was led to a medical station. A British Army nurse examined her, temperature taken, throat checked, thorough but gentle. When Greta flinched, the nurse stopped immediately. "I'm checking for lice. That's all. I won't hurt you." Why would an enemy nurse promise not to hurt you? When the nurse discovered a minor wound on Greta's arm, she cleaned and dressed it carefully. "Come back in 3 days so we can check it." 3 days. As if Greta had a future. Britain held 400,000 German prisoners by 1946. The treatment was strict but humane. This wasn't accidental. It was policy. The Geneva Convention required adequate housing, sufficient food, protection from violence. But beyond legal requirements, there was something cultural, a commitment to the idea that how you treat your enemies defines who you are. The message was clear: we will not become what we defeated. Processing took 2 days. Greta's group was assigned to converted barracks, metal beds, wool blankets, clean dresses to replace their uniforms. That night, she heard crying from several beds, not loud sobbing, just quiet, exhausted tears. Women who'd been braced for horror and instead received basic decency. The confusion was its own kind of torture. Mornings began at 6:30. Porridge with jam, real bread, tea. Then work assignments, laundry, kitchens, administrative tasks. Greta was sent to the camp office. Her supervisor, Lieutenant Hargreaves, spoke to her like any clerk. "These files need organizing by date." No shouting, no contempt, just instructions. One afternoon she misfiled an entire folder. She froze, waiting for punishment. Hargreaves sighed, handed it back. "Try again. Happens to everyone." She stood there stunned by the absence of consequences. By August, restrictions loosened. Women with clean records could work outside, primarily on farms suffering labor shortages. Greta was assigned to a dairy farm in Hampshire, run by an older couple named WWII. The work was hard, 6 cows, twice daily. But at midday, Mrs. WWII called her into the kitchen. Cheese sandwiches, pickles, strong tea. "Sit!" Greta hesitated. She was the enemy. "Sit!" Mrs. WWII repeated firmly. They ate in near silence. Then Mr. WWII spoke. "Lost our son at Arnhem. Paratrooper." Greta's breath caught. I'm sorry." He nodded slowly. "Wasn't your fault. Wasn't ours either. Just the bloody war." That night, Greta couldn't reconcile it. A British couple who'd lost their son to her side had fed her, taught her, treated her like a worker, not a prisoner. In September, the women were shown footage from Bergen-Belsen, from Dachau, skeletal bodies, gas chambers, crematoria. Some turned away, others wept. When the film ended, a British officer stood. "This is what you served. Not all of you knew, but all of you enabled it." That night, the debates erupted. We were following orders. Ursula insisted we had no choice. "We had a choice," Greta said quietly. "We chose not to ask questions." By 1947, something remarkable was happening. Once fraternization bans lifted, 796 marriages between German POWs and British women took place immediately. Former enemies were becoming neighbors, colleagues, sometimes family. Repatriation began in September 1946. Women could return to Germany or apply for resettlement programs. Greta chose to stay. Not because she'd stopped being German, but because the Germany she'd believed in no longer existed. Perhaps it never had. She settled in Hampshire, worked permanently at the WWII farm, eventually married a local man, raised 2 children. She never forgot what she'd learned, that propaganda is poison, that your enemies might be more humane than your own leaders, that true strength isn't the willingness to destroy, but the discipline not to. Years later, in 1962, Greta's daughter asked about the war. "Were you scared when you were captured?" Greta thought carefully. "Yes, but not of what I expected. I was scared because they were kind, and kindness from an enemy is the most dangerous weapon of all." Why? Because it makes you question everything you were taught to believe. She poured her daughter a cup of tea and set it on the table. "Remember this, how people treat you when they don't have to tell you who they really are. Your grandfather fought against them. But when they won, they didn't gloat. They didn't take revenge. They just made tea." She paused, and that changed everything. The cup of tea Greta held that first day wasn't just a drink. It was a declaration that even in defeat, human dignity would be honored. Sometimes the strongest weapon is the one you choose not to use. The tea was still warm when she finished it. The war was over, and somehow, impossibly, there was still kindness in the world.